Today is Friday, July 15th. What you need to know about the latest wave of COVID-19 and its impact on American hospitals, and the first lawsuit the White House is facing over new abortion guidance. Also, there are record-breaking heat waves across 3 continents, and millions of people are affected here in the U.S. Plus, it's the 911 of mental health, a first-of-its-kind 3-digit number to call during a mental health crisis. How you can play the hit online game Wordle IRL. And a discovery that uncovered an iconic artist's portrait that was hidden for centuries. Those stories and more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. The newest CDC data shows another uptick in COVID-19 hospitalizations. And already in some places, there are reports of healthcare workers being stretched thin. The CDC says right now, nearly 34,000 patients are in American hospitals with COVID-19. And as of this week, nearly 6,000 more are being admitted every day on average. Nationwide, that means hospitalizations have doubled since May. They've gone up even more in the south central U.S., states like Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. Now, all of that said, hospitalizations are still much lower than their peaks in January, and the amount of people dying from COVID-19 is still relatively low. Health officials credit better treatments and vaccines for that. Still, most of the new cases, hospitalizations, and deaths can be blamed on the Omicron subvariant BA.5. So far, data shows it's not any more dangerous than other versions of COVID, but it is more contagious. For now, public health officials are urging people to make sure they're up to date on their vaccines and boosters to keep their immunity as strong as possible. A new report from the United Nations found millions of children around the world, most of them in the poorest countries, have missed some or all of their childhood vaccinations in the last couple of years. These are the types of vaccines that fight against common diseases like tetanus and whooping cough. Officials say it's the largest backslide in routine immunization in a generation, and should be considered a public health emergency. The report blames a variety of things, including the pandemic disrupting regular health services and misinformation about vaccines. UNICEF says the solution is funding and deploying thousands of health workers who can work to build trust in communities. Texas has now become the first state to sue the federal government over recent guidance to doctors and hospitals around the country. Remember, the Health and Human Services Department told them they have to provide an abortion when the procedure could save the health or life of a pregnant woman. It says that's the case even in those states that banned the procedure after the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, and that any hospital that does not comply could lose federal funding. In Texas, the abortion ban does have an exception for medical emergencies, but the Texas Attorney General filed the lawsuit anyway, saying the federal government forces hospitals and doctors to commit state crimes. It seems the state's AG is worried about the guidance being exploited. He said, quote, "The Biden administration seeks to transform every emergency room in the country into a walk-in abortion clinic," and then said that would go against the Supreme Court's recent ruling. In response, the White House spokesperson called the Attorney General extreme and radical, saying, quote, "It is unthinkable that this public health official would sue to block women from receiving life-saving care." So far, the Health and Human Services Department has not said anything publicly about this lawsuit. The Secret Service is facing some serious questions over whether its agents got rid of potential evidence. The Homeland Security Department's watchdog says many Secret Service text messages from the day of the Capitol riot and the day before were deleted, and that they were deleted after the watchdog requested them. A Secret Service spokesperson responded, saying it did lose data on some phones, but he said that happened as part of a pre-planned device replacement program, not part of a cover-up. He also pointed out that the Secret Service had already turned over thousands of emails and messages as requested. Still, some lawmakers investigating the January 6th riot called this news concerning. Others promised to look into it more. The next and possibly final hearing is expected to happen next week. The political makeup of the world seems to be changing quickly. The latest shakeups? 2 top elected officials overseas resigned this week, or at least tried to. First, we'll talk about Italy. The Italian prime minister put in his resignation yesterday. It came after a political alliance collapsed over different opinions about how to respond to the Ukraine war and how to help Italians out of an economic slump. But then Italy's president said nope and rejected the prime minister's resignation. It's not clear exactly what the future holds now, but it does show how fragile the political landscape is in Europe right now. Remember, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson resigned last week, and the French president lost his majority in parliament. But that's not all. An Asian country has also been going through political turmoil lately. Sri Lanka's president officially resigned yesterday. He had already fled the country following months of heated protests over how he was handling an economic crisis. Protesters had even stormed government buildings in Sri Lanka. But once the president stepped down, they left, and the nation's military reestablished control. Sri Lanka's prime minister already resigned last weekend, so lawmakers there will be holding an election next week. Still ahead, we are talking about extreme weather, the new mental health version of 911, a major discovery from one of the most popular painters ever, and more. But first, a quick break for our sponsor, Thrive Causemetics. I love it when I can spend my money on things I was going to buy regardless, and then find out that I'm helping to support charitable organizations with those purchases. Well, Thrive Causemetics makes that possible thanks to its Bigger Than Beauty mission. And of course, I really like their products too. I'm already using 3 things from Thrive Causemetics on a regular basis. The Liquid Balm Lip Treatment, which is my everyday lip moisturizer. It helps plumps and smooths the look of fine lines on my lips and gives me a great, clear, glossy look. The Liquid Lash Extensions Mascara. It's ultra lengthening and does not flake throughout the day. And finally, the Brilliant Eye Brightener. It's a really handy cream to powder highlighter stick that helps to brighten my eyes even when I don't feel like wearing eyeshadow. And as I run out of my other stuff, I will be buying even more, from my moisturizer to my makeup. And now is a great time to try Thrive Causemetics for yourself. Right now, you can get 15% off your first order when you visit thrivecausemetics.com/newsworthy. That's Thrive Causemetics, CAUSEMETICS, thrivecausemetics.com/newsworthy to get 15% off your first order. From Europe to Asia to right here in the U.S., the world is dealing with some record-breaking heat waves. Parts of Spain and Portugal topped 104 degrees this week, breaking all-time temperature records. 40 regions across France are also under some sort of heat alert. And the UK is expected to get triple-digit temps next. Further east, several Chinese cities, including the most populous city of Shanghai, issued the highest possible alerts for extreme heat. In fact, since record-keeping began in the 1800s, Shanghai has only issued 17 red alerts ever, and 3 of those happened this week. In the U.S., Texas has already been dealing with a long stretch of triple-digit heat. One forecasting firm says this is the hottest late spring and summer period on record in the state. But through the weekend and into next week, it could get even worse. Parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas might see their highest temperatures yet. Some of the heat will also spread to Louisiana, Arkansas, and Missouri. Speaking of extreme weather, heavy rainfall caused severe flooding in southwest Virginia this week. A bridge collapsed, homes were torn from their foundations, and roads were washed away. But here's the good news. The dozens of people who were reported missing have all been found, and no one was reported hurt. Virginia's governor is going to tour the areas impacted by flooding today. It's like 911, but for mental health. Instead of the longer 1-800 number, people experiencing a mental health emergency will now be able to call just 3 digits, 988. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline officially launches across the U.S. tomorrow. Anyone in the country can text or call 988 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The Lifeline is free and confidential, and it has a network of more than 200 local crisis centers. Counselors can provide emotional support and connect callers with other resources if needed, like if someone needs medical attention. There have been some concerns in recent months that call centers for this will not be ready for tomorrow's launch. But now, those behind 988 say they are confident the service will be able to provide critical care. They do say, though, there could be a short wait at times, but that eventually a counselor is going to listen and take care of each person's situation. The original suicide prevention lifeline, 1-800-273-TALK, will continue to work in addition to 988. The popular online word puzzle game, Wordle, will no longer just be in the digital world. It's becoming a physical board game. The New York Times is now partnering with the toy and games company Hasbro to make this happen. The Times acquired Wordle back in January after the game went viral. Now the new physical version will be called Wordle the Party Game. It's meant to have multiple players interacting in real life. Players will compete to guess a secret 5-letter word that's been written down by another player. Players earn points with each round it takes to guess the correct word, so the player with the least amount of points wins. The game is available now for pre-order, and the website says it's expected to ship out on October 1st. Another work of art from one of the most famous and influential painters in history has just been discovered. The National Galleries of Scotland came across a self-portrait of Vincent van Gogh that no one knew about before now. It was found on the back of another one of his paintings called Head of a Peasant Woman. The newly discovered work is believed to have been hidden behind it for more than a century, covered by layers of glue and cardboard when it was framed in the early 20th century. Experts at the gallery in Scotland were doing an X-ray of the painting ahead of an upcoming expedition when they first saw it. Now, visitors will be able to see the X-ray for themselves when the exhibit opens later this month. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Feel Good Friday, when we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But first, a quick break for our sponsor. No one knows what you're looking for in a doctor better than you, and no one's better at giving you the tools to find that perfect doctor than ZocDoc. I appreciate a friend's recommendation as much as the next person. But a lot of the times that doctor does not take your insurance and/or doesn't have availability for weeks or even months. We've all been there. But ZocDoc makes the whole search easier. ZocDoc is a free app that shows you doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and are available when you need them. I found it really easy to get started. You just fill out the type of doctor you're looking for, your zip code, and your insurance provider. In seconds, ZocDoc gives you lots of local doctors to choose from, and if you want, you can choose a time slot right then and there, whether you want to see the doctor in person or with a video visit. And just like that, you're booked. Go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then start your search for a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/newsworthy, ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Now back to Feel Good Friday. A sizable new Veterans Memorial is now on display in a small town in Minnesota, all thanks to a determined teenager. When Dom Klausman was just 15 years old, he went to a city council meeting with his idea. He said he wanted to build the memorial as his Eagle Scout project. Dom already had the plans set and a spot picked out. All he needed was $12,000. To raise that money, Dom hung flyers in businesses, did interviews with the local newspaper and radio station, and set up a table to pitch his project at veterans group meetings. Well, the community backed him up in a big way. And in about 2 years, Dom had collected more than $77,000. So he expanded his vision. The memorial now includes 280 pavers engraved with the names of veterans and service members who died in combat, as well as black granite benches, bronze statues, and flags. Dom also used his dad's old combat boots from when he served in the U.S. military in Iraq to leave footprints in the wet cement. Now the teenager says he hopes his 2 younger brothers will one day expand the memorial even more when it comes time to do their Eagle Scout projects. All right, we'll be back tomorrow with our special edition Saturday episode about how to manage your money even in the face of inflation, a possible recession, and a lot of uncertainty. Then join us again Monday for your next news roundup. For now, thank you so much for listening and have a great weekend.